Hello and welcome to Cool Coffee with Kansas Principals. By and for school administrators, this podcast is intended to promote candid discussion and insight about our great profession. My name is Rick Sola, and as Communications Director for the Kansas Principals Association, I am the host, but I am certainly not the feature. Sit back, take a sip, and enjoy. This is Cool Coffee with Kansas Principals. Let's get started. All right, hello, welcome to Cool Coffee, another edition, a special edition, and we'll just call this a Principals segment because I've got two of my own Principals, and I've got to give credit where credit's due. I did not come up with that. That was a former principal friend of mine, Justin Howe, who I've mentioned on this show before. He had the idea of Principals, and he is a former principal now in the HR world, so I try not to bring him up too often. But anyway, so we have some Principals here with Mr. JJ Libal and Mr. Greg Oborny, and I'll let them introduce themselves here in a little bit, but they are both retiring principals after long, very successful careers in the chair. And so this is going to be a podcast where some shared wisdom will be given to the millions of listeners of Cool Coffee. And we will start by just doing a quick introduction. I'll let you introduce yourself. Grego, let's hear about you.
All right. Well, I'm Greg Oborny. I've been with the Olathe District Schools for 39 years. I started my career as a first grade teacher, then was an instructional reading coach, was principal at Northview Elementary for 4 years, and then have been at the last 25 years. I opened Regency Place and have been here, and now am going to live life outside the principalship. Yeah, crazy. Turn 60, what happens? There's life. That's me.
Perfect. And we'll get more into it. And I should have started with this. And this is not any indication of the company that we have on this show, but this has always been able to maintain a family-friendly rating of podcast. And so I know you're retiring and you're both going out the door. But just for the record, we're a family-friendly show, and I'm kind of joking. I'm not setting you guys up at all. But JJ, quick road to the chair that you are about to vacate.
Sure. JJ Libal. I'm the retiring principal at Santa Fe Trail Middle School, the best middle school in Olathe. No offense, Rick Sola. But I
take a little, but go ahead.
Right. 19 years in Olathe School District, really 15 years as an administrator, all in Olathe. Started off, I'm a farm kid from southeast Nebraska, and I've taught, my previous careers, I've taught in small 1A schools. First teaching job, I was the entire social studies department for the high school, to urban setting in KCK, and then to Olathe. And I was in Olathe as a teacher for 4 years before I moved over to the assistant principal role at a couple of different middle schools, including Santa Fe Trail, where I'm at now, and retiring after 9 years at Santa Fe Trail as a principal.
Well, full disclosure, like I said, this is we'll call it Principals, but JJ and I go back to our coaching days. We coached against each other. We were both basketball coaches or social studies teachers together at different schools, but same grade level. So we go way back. And then Grego, I've gotten to know him more in the more recent years, and I think my only regret is I didn't connect with you sooner, Greg. And so, but it's awesome to be able to connect with you on here.
Well, you middle school principals are such a elite group. I've always been so intimidated, and when we elementary principals, are not really worthy to be amongst the middle school and secondary folks. But once I finally gained entry into the secret club with the handshake and all, I have just been so honored and have lots of new insights into your middle school principal ways.
Well, I think the barrier that you broke, and it's apropos that you're wearing a quarter zip right now, because once you wore a quarter zip at one point, and we said, you know what, I think he could be part of the middle school club. That and a polo, right? Dry fit?
It was dry fit.
Yeah. Okay.
Elementary folks aren't always into dry fit, but I've learned your ways, and now,
yeah,
extreme comfort.
Well, that's perfect. Well, I'm gonna have you both go back and kind of go back to the deep memories of early in your educational career to your first year as an administrator. And just for the record here, first year for you, Greg, in administration, what year would that have been?
Probably like 95.
Okay, and then JJ,
Would have been 2010.
2010. Okay, what was the first hard lesson that you learned as an administrator?
I
I think
remember.
oh, go
Go,
ahead, Greg.
you go, JJ.
Okay. So I think, one of the things that I was not as adept at early on was crucial conversations, hard conversations, critical conversation, whatever you want to call those. I think that that was something that I did not understand as well in the beginning, and how to do those well, and did some work and some reading on that and some practice with that, and I think that was something that I think you have to learn, especially if you're coming from the classroom, and if you're going to be working in the same building as an administrator that you had taught, understanding that relationships change, they change, and now you're the boss, you're the supervisor, and you're looked at a little bit differently at that point. And I would say even between, and at the elementary world with Greg, I will say this. Like, nobody works harder than elementary principals, elementary teachers, because it's you, right? You're the one. You're the one in that classroom. You're the one in that building. But there's even a different relationship that I would see as being the assistant principal to the principal chair with staff. So I would say that was a lesson that I or something that I got better at, that I wish I had learned a little bit earlier.
Right, right on track. Perfect on those critical conversations. That just comes with experience, I think, and you have several of them, and you botch them, and then you master it. I remember the first time I thought that as a principal, I could make a directive and ask people to do something and just assume they would do it. That was really early on. I had asked my new staff, I said, everybody's going to do a classroom newsletter. Now, I'd like for you to do it weekly, but I understand that monthly may be more up some of your alley as we get used to this. But it's going to promote home and school communication, and this is just something you've never done, and it's going to be great. And the SPED people said, no, we don't do that. That's going to be with IEPs. Nope, we can't. And I said, well, let's talk about then perhaps the objectives that you're working on with content in all of your IEP sessions. No, we're not going to do it. And I went, but it, uh, 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 okay. And so after that, I thought, I'm going to have to learn how to throw things out there, get a response from people, get critical mass, and get feedback and buy-in, because saying, we are going to do this, doesn't work.
At what point did you pull out the "I am the principal" card? Did that did that ever come out? I've always heard that if that's something that has to be said, then there's a lot that's lost at that point.
I was scared to say that after that moment, and thought I'm just going to have to be craftier and smarter in conveying that thought, but helping people realize that they're coming up with the idea and the initiative of which we need to do.
Yeah.
Just to add on that, because Greg, I think you bring up a great point. I think we've all been in that situation. One thing that I found about 3 or 4 years ago, I think, I actually was around COVID when we were all online and looking for professional learning and all those things, was a decision making matrix. And actually, I got kind of a hard time from my staff, because they would give me a hard time. Okay, is this a level 1? Is this a level 2? Is this a level 5 decision? And make fun of me for it. But then that actually kind of told me that they were paying attention to it. And that kind of helped some because I could say, like Greg, I love that term critical mass. I wish I would have heard that a few years ago. Thanks for just sharing that with me now, Greg. Could have used that a while back, but no, I think
It's
the idea of being the
vintage.
same, yeah, timing, my timing is always impeccable. But I think that is important because there are times where you have to put on that boss hat, but you don't want to do that every day. There are times where I call it the boss hat. I said, hey, this one's a level one. It's a boss hat, right? Like I'm going to make this decision, and but I often call things, hey, going into this decision, it's a level two, and so that means I'm making the decision, but I'm going to get input from you first. And so that if there are any complaints or concerns after that, I can say, well, you knew how the decision was going to be made before I made the decision, and so I understand you're giving your feedback that way, and so I think that helped me a little bit. But I agree with Greg. You can't pull that boss card out all the time, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out other ways.
So, for the record, I hope a little bit of facetiousness came across in that comment. I am the principal. I kind of go back to the old Saturday Night Live skit with Will Ferrell where he's sitting around the table and getting frustrated because no one's listening. And he's like, I drive a Dodge Stratus. I'm in charge of 23 people. I'm a big deal. I don't think that's a sign that things are going really well when we have to do that. But, some really good stuff there. And yeah, to go back to those early years, and I do think that that's a real challenge early on, especially all throughout the principalship, but early on especially because Greg alluded to it earlier. We learn from getting burned, we get better at it, but in those early years we don't have the experience to draw on or the foundation or the confidence is probably a big part of that as well. To be able, just like you said, you're like, yeah, I don't know. But that's a really uncomfortable place to live in, and that's really where our early principals live on the daily. I remember that. I see both of you shaking your head. I think that's really just kind of a reality. So you've kind of gotten through all that. At some point along the way, you received what you probably would coin as the best advice you ever got as an administrator. What advice did you receive perhaps early on that you just felt like, wow, just like JJ just said, man, I wish I'd known that earlier. But you hear something from all the mentors and all the people that we work around that are so great. Greg, we'll start with you. Best advice that you received early on in your principalships.
Well, we talk about it every day at school now, especially starting the year. It's the power of building relationships. We want teachers to build relationships with students and have that rapport and have authentic and real connections. And when we do that, students, there's lots of teaching and learning. They make progress, and it's good all around. And I think people definitely have to be real. Principals have to be real with their staff, and you've got to have relationships. I had one teacher say, Greg, I don't know what it is, but suddenly you do these Jedi mind tricks, and here we're all doing student-led conferences. And it's that trust. They trust you, you trust them, and you have relationships. And like when JJ said those critical conversations, that's when you have faith in yourself that you can do those things, and they can come from a place of, if I were you, I would want to know. I use that phrase a lot. If I were you, I'd really want to know. So let's talk about it. And then you have that relationship built and the rapport, and then you work through those things.
Yeah, and you always hope that those conversations are coming after you've built all those relationships and you've got so many deposits. Greg, as far as, 39 years in education, right?
Correct.
Intentional steps that you have. I mean, you're a very a natural people person. The things that you do in your building to really kind of just always keep the relationship fire going with your staff. What are one or two of those things that you do?
I think we have to have humor. Yesterday with the elementary principals, I was talking about the principal's handbook, which is this made up entity that I use on my morning show with students about, students in the principal's handbook, because you only get the handbook after you go to principal school. And it's the knowledge of all the principals that have come before you. And whenever you have a question, principals go to the principal handbook. And we had a big snow last night, students. And in the principal handbook, it says on page 1429, remind students to leave snow where nature intended it, on the ground. And of course, I got a principal handbook from my staff on my last day. I think humor has to be part of it. And, another thing is just the integrity. I mean, we all know what we're supposed to do, that little voice that tells you what is the right thing to do. And when there's contentious conversations, parents, students, and we are attacked, I always just tell myself, what is the right thing to do? I really want to say this. I really want to make this point and have the last word. That's not the right thing. What does integrity tell you you need to do? So that's my guiding principle. Integrity, humor, and build your relationships. And the rest of, Scarborough's rope and the seal of literacy and, learning objectives, learning intentions, teacher clarity, those things will fall into place after you have those big pillars of what we just talked about.
No, I love that, and I love the principal handbook. That might be something I need to steal and just kind of reference, especially to kids. They love to. Well, now I've got the handbook here, so no, that's you're really great there, JJ. Best advice.
Yeah, I think two things. One, I heard from an assistant principal when I was teaching that I worked with. So, and I didn't think about it until, I obviously became a principal, but there are very few emergencies in education. And, obviously, we had bad weather last night. That's right. An emergency takes shelter. But other than that, there are very few emergencies. I know that one thing that I learned when I made a decision too quickly, and didn't take 24 to 48 hours, usually did not go as well. And I know that can be frustrating to staff sometimes because they want an answer right now. But I try to remind myself there are very few things in education that can't wait 24 to 48 hours. Like Greg said, before you respond to that email, before you say something, give yourself push pause, I guess would be the shorter version of that. Number two would be visibility. And I would say I would credit Mike Wolgast for that, who I worked with at Pioneer Trail. And I really didn't understand that till I became a principal. But I hear Mike tell me all the time, be visible. And so many of parents may not make it into the building, but they see you out there at the crosswalk. In my case, they saw me weed eating because it's what I like to do. And they thought it was just for the school, but it was also for me because it was part of my therapy. But, that means so much to staff and to students and to parents, right, that you're visible. We see you at every game. We see you at every concert. Not that you have to attend all those things the entire time, but when you're there, and I would add one thing to that, active visibility. So when you're there, are you, fist bumping parents? Hello, nice to see you again. Thanks for coming tonight. How's it, So being actively visible and being, and then really pushing pause on things that do not need a decision right now.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I love that active visibility piece because sometimes it, I don't know, we can be visible, but there's a million things rattling through our brains. And so it's easy to not be engaged with whatever it is. It could be just a supervision of a concert or a basketball game, but to be active, I love that. As we transition, still along the line of advice, but thinking to someone who may come to you, hey JJ, Greg, I'm starting my very first principalship, or I'm starting my very first role in administration. You have years and wealth of wisdom, which is a lot of experience. What would you want to impart, or what advice would you want to give to someone who is asking you in June before August for some advice?
Greg, I'll let you start on that one. I'm still thinking about it.
Well, I'm going to be totally blunt and family friendly on this response. But when someone comes to me and says they're interested in the principalship administration, my first question to them is, are you sure you want to come to the dark side? And they'll go, what? And I say, yes, this is the Darth Vader dark side. You have great highs in this job, but there are some lows and the depths that will rock your health, your mental health, your physical health, your family life. And you've got to be prepared to work on balance and know that the work is never done. You will never be good enough. There's always going to be someone that's unhappy with the decision you've made or you haven't met their needs. Your needs are going to be secondary to your staff, your students, your community. You will not get to show true emotions because you're going to be a leader, and it's going to take over your entire life. And it's just the best thing ever at times, and it is awful at times. And you've got to have thick skin. So you better get yourself a good moisturizer, some sunscreen, and be prepared because it will impact every aspect of your life. And you probably will earn about $15 an hour when it's all said and done, with the amount of time that it takes in your existence. Are you ready to come to the dark side? They look at me and often go, thanks, Mr. O, I'll think about this. To me, it's the truth, though.
Yeah. But, wrapped up in all of that, there's all the challenges you said, but it's the best, and there's so much to love about it. And I've said on this show before many times just how I do think the principalship is the best job in education. There's just so many things with it. It doesn't mean it's easy. If it feels easy, we're probably not doing it the right way. And I love that you shared all that, because I think anybody who's listening to this can probably relate pretty deeply with all of that. But it's also encouraging as a reminder of what it is that we're doing. And Greg, I bet you've had former students now, 39 years in education. They're well into adulthood. There's probably some grandkids that are coming through. The profound impact that you've had, and what better legacy is there than to positively impact kids and families? But there's a sacrifice that comes with it. So that's great advice. JJ.
It's always about the kids for me, love what Greg said there. Decisions that you make that are best for kids are not always going to be what's most convenient for adults. And so I think you have to keep that in mind, because one thing that I would tell a new administrator coming in is that I cannot prepare you for the number of adult things that you will deal with dealing with adults as much or more that you deal with kids, because you have to remember that you're taking on everything else too. Anything that is personal and going on in their lives, a divorce, a breakup, somebody passing, that all comes to you as the principal too, right? For you to handle it. Everybody else is, things that they're the burdens that they're carrying too can come to you quite often. So, but I would say the focus still has to be on the kids, and we are here. They are our clients. I say all the time, we have the best kids, and we have to believe that. And so what I would say is keep the focus where it needs to be, and that's ultimately on the kids that we serve. And now you're doing that as a principal for an entire building, but there are going to be some decisions that you make that's going to be what's best for a kid, maybe even on an individual discipline situation where the teacher wants one thing, the parent wants something, and you have to do what's best for the kid in that situation, and that teacher may not feel supported for whatever reason. So you have to be able to do that, but understand that that's why you were put in that chair. You were put in that chair because you are a leader, because somebody saw something in you to lead an entire building. And so, you get the opportunity to make that decision. And some of those things can be very life changing as well for students. But just and I mentioned this the other day in our, is get a praise box. Find something that you can put notes in of praise over the years, and then get those out. Put them in an album. Find those things, because those are going to be important later on. From whether it be from staff or students or parents. So that would be my advice.
Recently, I told a teacher, and this was like May 15th, and this was in the principal's handbook that they gave me. I had a bit of a melodramatic moment, and I was talking to this teacher, and I said, "Oh, good grief. I'm just like Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. I give, I give, I give. I've got no branches. I give, and now I'm simply just a stump. That's all I am. I'm just a stump. There's nothing left of me." And of course, we laughed, and I thought that really is the principalship. We give, we give, we give. And then suddenly there's just nothing left but a stump. But you know what? Over summer, you grow back into this great, big, powerful Kansas cottonwood tree. And then throughout the year, you're losing everything, Shel Silverstein. But it always comes back, and it feels so good when you do give, and it comes back, and you still have that capacity to give.
That's a great analogy. I love it. There's a theme wrapped in there somewhere. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that into a school-wide theme. Maybe that's a little dark of a theme. I don't know. That's maybe a little melancholy or something. But no, everything that you both just said is just so great, and to be able to capture that here, and like I said, I hope people will hear this, and because there's so much there, especially those who are getting into the profession, or maybe they're just finishing their first or second year, where you really feel beat down, and you talk about thick skin. It takes a little time to really get comfortable with that, because you're building that confidence and all that. I know a big part of, especially for both of you, because you care so much about your communities, the school that you're stepping away from. I know there's a lot of prep that is and has gone into leaving in a good place for the person who's stepping into your chair. Just talk briefly about what are some of those things that you made sure to do to ensure that your community and the building is really left in the best possible place for that person.
I'm glad you talked about that. I was just talking with Leah, Dr. Cogswell, who'll be taking the principalship at Santa Fe Trail. And it's funny how things kind of come across, like Twitter or whatever happens to be, just at the right time. But it was about, basically about transition. And it talked about how, are you building something that is strong only when you're there, or also when you're out of the room? And can you be a cheerleader for what happens next? And is there momentum to move forward? And I think that is really, really good. It's really hard. I mean, I found it hard, right? To kind of step away and say, okay, I won't be here, or I'm not involved in planning and decision making for next year at this point. And that's not easy. But what you have to realize is that it's not about you, first of all. And you have to. It's really about the kids and moving forward, and sometimes change is good. And so, I would just say that understand that your legacy is about what moves forward in that situation, not necessarily about what was left behind in that situation. So that's kind of how I've looked at these last couple of months as it's gotten closer to the end.
Well,
Great.
JJ, I'm glad that you expressed that it has been hard, especially with a new person. I have felt that immensely, and then told myself this shouldn't be hard. But after 25 years, I opened the building. I've hired everybody. I've planted bushes like you. I've trimmed my DNA is all over this building with sweat, blood, tears, and my life. And so giving that up to a new leader has really been challenging for me, because this has been my life, my passion, Regency Place. But I love the successor, Tricia Putoff, and I've really worked hard to make sure that she has every success possible. Everything is going to be done for her. I've got files ready. She's going to come into this clean office, which is not right now. And the year is pretty much planned for her. And then she gets to take that and do what she wants to. And I will be totally supportive of whatever comes up. I've tried to include her in all of our end of the year events so that everybody knows that we are aligned and good friends. The community knows that we're good friends, which adds comfort to the transition. And strangely enough, I received a picture from a former staff member taken probably back in 2007. This is me.
See that, yeah.
Stylish man bag. That was, very popular in those 2000s. And here's Tricia, who was friends with people in my building, and we were at a staff function. And we're both talking, laughing, jamming, dancing. Who would have known that in 2025, she would be taking over the love of my life, and I'm going to be okay with it.
Yeah. What a great picture.
Yeah.
To have that unearthed at this point, and that's pretty cool. I'm assuming she's seen this, right?
Oh, yes.
Is it going to be put up in the building? It really should.
Well, it's a family friendly building, Rick, with family friendly language and imagery.
Yes.
And probably this was at a favorite watering hole back in the mid 2000s that's probably no longer in existence, and I'm thinking that perhaps another PLC opportunity for the community to see us getting along might be more appropriate.
That is an answer only someone with years of principal experience could provide. That's fantastic. I'll say the last couple months, maybe it's the last several weeks, or maybe it's the last year. Talk about, or just share, what's been your favorite memory over the kind of, I guess, just the home stretch. And so wherever you want to put that, but as part of your retirement, you both have alluded to some of, and I've seen pictures on Twitter of some really great things, and your communities, they love you. But what's been one of your favorite memories of, because I've heard it so many times before, and Greg, actually, you said this at the district retirement, that, you find out, you hear so many great things when you retire. It's unfortunate that we don't hear those things until we retire. But what's been your favorite memory over the last couple months?
Yeah, for me, really, it's, I told my staff, made it very clear, and, like Greg talked about a directive that people don't follow. I made it very clear, I thought, that I didn't want anything. I just want to walk away, right? That didn't happen, but, it was great. So I think one of the favorite memories I have is we do a spring show at the end of the year, and Rick would know what that's all about, your cheerleaders and drill team, and, put on a performance. And they had gotten from my wife a list of like some of my favorite rock songs, because it was a rock and roll theme. And they did a montage of those songs, tribute, and then I got out there and was dancing with them. Had, the Brett Michaels wig on, that kind of thing, out there, and because it was us dressing up for the event, and that was really special, and that brought goosebumps, and still does now, goosebumps right now thinking about that, and a tear. I think that will always be an amazing thing, and the fact that the kids took the time to do that, and the sponsors to put that together, choreograph something and have it go off, that was amazing. And so that's one that I will always take forward. And then I think just the number of cards and emails and things that I've gotten, that I've received has been tremendous from the community. They see it. You may not always hear it all the time, but they do recognize, and appreciate the work that goes in and taking care of their children.
JJ, I
there,
was like you. I was thinking, okay, let's keep the celebrations minimal. But at some point, I didn't have control over it and they weren't listening. And I just had to lean in and go with it. And that was really tough for me, to be the center of attention and have all this thrown at you that really is so validating for you as a person, as a professional, and as your career. But after you kind of get used to it and you open yourself up to it, it really does help bring, I think, some closure to our careers and the power and legacy that we've left with this district. Again, I will say, I had a moment where a former parent called me and I saw the name on the phone and I had an immediate, because the last time I talked to this parent 8 years ago, in June, was a knockdown, drag out, not kind conversation at all about some critiques. The things weren't brought up, and it wasn't positive. I held my own, and I saw that name and thought, oh my. Well, that parent had called and wanted to share that the boys were doing exceptional, going to college, had one graduating this year, and that their best years were at Regency Place, and he just wanted to let me know that. And he remembered the last time we had visited, and he had thought about calling since then, but this just felt like the right time. And I
wow.
thought, another example, do the right thing. You don't always have to get the last word, Mr. Oborny. And that does come around. And that disgruntled parent that extended the olive branch 8 years later was something I really remember as much as I do cards and everything here, that doing the right thing and being a human being is so much what this job is all about. And we lose sight of it. It's hard because there's so many pressures and we're trying to be effective all the time and you just want to get this done. But relationships and being human, that's how you get it done.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a gift too, because that's something that I think so much in education we don't see the fruition. Things come to fruition that we may have planted, and to be able to have that 8 years later, what a nice gesture on their part, and that you remember that so clearly. Like I said, I have seen and heard of, and then of course our district celebration. So many great things on your behalf, and it's just great to see that. Two very deserving principals, and for the record, going to miss you both greatly at our district meetings and just connecting with you. But I also know that you're the kind of people that are just a phone call away, and you'd be willing to talk about anything. But just two of the best. I want to leave this with just quickly your plans now for the future, because I know August is going to have a different feel. And JJ, I know you've got a little bit of an educational road ahead of you still, but I know it's going to feel much different. I say August; it's really like your summer is going to feel very different. So, what are those plans here in the upcoming school year?
Yeah, so I will be in charge of in-school suspension at a middle school in Park Hill School District, and be an hourly employee, and looking forward to that. And coach girls basketball. I think this is a good transition before my ultimate goal is to get back in the classroom as a social studies teacher, and so I'm looking for this transition time, and had an opportunity yesterday to go work with some of the kids at a basketball camp, and it was so much fun to be back in the gym, knock off some of that coaching rust, and learn, and like, oh well, this is different than how I taught it 20 years ago, but that's okay. Let's learn more, and So I'm super excited about that, and really being able to work with kids, and try to make a difference, individually with students. Take a lot of the things that I've learned and put in place at Santa Fe Trail, and then eventually, though, I want to get back into the classroom. That's where my heart is, and continue to coach.
Great.
JJ, I admire you so much for, continuing having your feet and dabbling in education. That's great. I'm honestly scared to do that for fear that this school for 25 years has been the love of my life. And I would feel like I'm cheating if I were to do something else, And Rick, you're so in tune. I am not looking forward to August because I know I'm going to be having, I should be posting class lists. I should be doing this. So I plan to be out of town in Cape Cod during August, to be entirely away from that so that I'm not going to be too focused. But look forward to having a life outside of school, which I really haven't. All these years I've been so school focused. As I've told my staff when I announced this, Regency Place will learn to survive and thrive without Mr. O, and Mr. O needs to learn how to thrive and survive without Regency Place. So that is my goal, is learning how to thrive and survive without the school schedule and being effective. And Mr. Snap, which, by the way, this doesn't work at home. Snaps don't work.
I don't think they would work at my home either.
I just tried that on this call and got a dirty look. So I'm just saying, yeah, it wasn't for my dogs either. It was so yeah, there you go. I like that.
It's a big adventure. I really don't know what to expect. And I guess we work all of our lives to get to this point. And I have faith that it's all going to work out and be great.
Yeah. I would just echo there, Greg, because I mean it's a little bit grieving, right? I mean, there's a little, even though it's so hard, and there's so much, and I hated a countdown, a countdown of days. I didn't like countdowns, but it is a little bit of a grieving process, because when it becomes such a part of who you are and what you do, it's your identity. Right? And so now that has to change. And so I agree with you 100%. It will feel different when you've done this your entire life. And for me, that's all I've known, because my parents were educators, right? And so I have not known anything but going to school and doing school things since I was a little kid. So.
Well, really profound there, and just really awesome to hear. And just everything, as I'm thinking about just this whole talk and everything that has really been talked about, this whole Cool Coffee podcast is created to celebrate the principalship. And I can't think of any better way than to hear two amazing principals reflect on their career and share some advice and talk about next steps. There's just so much about the principalship that is hard and challenging, but so rewarding. And I hope nothing but the best for both of you as you embark on a summer that will be entirely different than it has been for many, many years. And Greg, figure out that watering hole that picture was taken into, and then when you come back from Cape Cod in September, October, or whenever, let's all get together and we'll just you can catch up and hear about things and perhaps be reminded that, oh no, that's been a really good couple months that I've had, not having to worry about all this stuff.
I might even bring back that man bag and treat you both to a healthy beverage.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds perfect. I'd be totally up for that. And guys, thank you so much. And as a testament to both of you, trying to schedule this, it was incredible because we're in summer, and I know Greg, tomorrow's actually the last official day of contract, but like it was dancing around commitments, because you're still meeting, you're still working, you're still doing things for your building. This has not been checkout mode for the last few weeks or whatever. You're working. You would talk about working bell to bell. You guys are working bell to bell. So thanks for all that you've done for education, for your communities, for your people, and thank you for coming on to this show here today.
Rick, your listening skills, your hosting skills, your paraphrasing skills are remarkable. I mean, this is like late night TV with your host skills. Seriously. So I'm going to give you some positive snaps.
Well, thank you very much. I thought I was sensing a little teetering on pandering or sarcasm or something, but no.
It's genuine.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
And I will echo that because Rick, you and I go way back, and Rick likes to give me a hard time, but we are also big planes, trains, automobiles fans and brothers in Seinfeld in that. And so I will just say that you do a great job with this, right? And I'm not saying that in some sarcastic Seinfeld way, or anything like that. This is you do a great job with this, and in all seriousness, the fact that you're highlighting, because I think people can forget about the role of the principal sometimes, right? And not understand that we're human too, and you're bringing that human element to this, and so thank you for doing that. I hope that you keep doing this because this is great.
Well,
agreed.
You're very kind, and we made it through this whole talk, and there was not one single Seinfeld quote or reference the entire time. That's pretty
We'll make
remarkable.
up for that. We'll make up for that at that watering hole.
Yeah, there you go.
True.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Have an awesome rest of the day, weekend ahead, and an awesome summer to you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Check the notes section for more information on this episode and to learn more about the KPA and its mission to develop and support all principals through optimized learning, collaborative leadership, networking, and service. Be sure to check back in for our next episode and spread the word about cool coffee with Kansas Principals. Catch you next time.